morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back again for another edition of Mamlakak Broadcast Network. Depending from where you are tuning in today, you are blessed and highly favored. Welcome, welcome. We having a treat for you again today. You are in for a treat, a power-packed discussion with MBN, and I am Ambassador Veronique Lawson, your host for today concerning this panel. We are joined by three great leaders from all around the globe who will expound on this topic, the dynamics of leadership, with subtitle, The Politics of Jesus. You hear it well. You know, Jesus Christ is a politician. Many people never say that Jesus is a politician, but you're going to find out today. In our current world today, we see political confusion. We see economical instability, social unrest. These are all the result of either a lack of leadership or a poor leadership. Leadership touches every area of our life, every area of society. Nothing happens without leadership. Nothing changes without leadership. Without leadership, nothing improves. Without leadership, nothing is corrected. So we need leadership to correct things in our society today. And we need the proper leadership to correct those things today. And you and I were born to lead. But we must first become that leader, and so that we could lead in our area of gifting. We cannot talk about leadership without making mention of this very well-crafted definition by our late mentor, Dr. Miles Monroe. He says, leadership is the capacity to influence people leadership is a capacity to influence through inspiration generated by passion, motivated by a vision, birthed by a conviction, produced by a purpose. There are 6 key words that he gave in his definition. And those keywords is from upside down, start with purpose, conviction, vision, passion, inspiration, and then influence. That will help you today to understand the dynamics of leadership. Our constitution is full of people who either lead with poor leadership or even lead with a great leadership. An example is Joshua. We know Joshua as a powerful leader, but Joshua was not a great leader. Why? Because Joshua failed to prepare his successor. And the result is recorded in the article of Judges. You could read it and you will find it right there by yourself. So allow me today to introduce to you our panelists from their own condensed biography. Dr. David Benz. Dr. David Benz, PhD, is the pastor of the Empowerment Embassy in the USA. He is also the president of the Global Alliance of Leadership. Wow. Development. A certified speaker, trainer and coach with John Maxwell team with expertise in relationship development, success and development, leadership, development, and also motivation and purpose discovery. So he's focused more on purpose discovery. Dr. Benz and his lovely bride resided in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with their children, Benjamin, 28, Caleb, 24, and Princess Maya Benz, who she's 19. He is the author of 5 books. Dr. Benz's mandate is to empower people to discover, develop, and dominate in their original design. Now, let us read the condensed bio of Ambassador Hubert Sujira Adekimania. Hubert Sujira is a husband, a father, a best author, selling speaker, a teacher, and a leadership and relationship consultant who was born to raise up a new breed of African leader. Wow. Now let us read from Ambassador Alex E. Hammer. Alex E. Hammer is widely recognized as one of Canada's foremost trainer and consultant on leadership, effectiveness, sales and marketing, strategy management. He is an executive coach to politicians, judges, bishops, TV personality, Olympians, and other celebrities. A global strategist, versatile entrepreneur with many businesses. He is the president and CEO of the Strategy Management. Wow. Office, which is SMO, Strategy Management Office, which crafts and oversees the execution of multi-million-dollar projects and programs. Alex E. Hammer is the author of over 100 transformational online courses certification and program like the Psychology of Sales and Marketing and Diversity Leadership certification, and best-selling book like Welcome to the Greatness and the Mystic of Leadership. You have it all today on this panel. I tell you, we are loaded with more knowledge and wisdom in this topic of the dynamics of leadership. So now, what are you going to do? You are going to take out your notepad and sit down so that you will be able to hear the tale from our panelists as they discuss this topic, the dynamics of leadership, with subtitle, The Politics of Jesus. The floor is yours, Dr. David Benz. Let our audience know what is about the dynamics of leadership.
Excellent. Ambassador Veronique, it's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet my brothers, Ambassador Hubert and Alex. And thank you so much for allowing me to be on this panel with these distinguished guests. And what an awesome topic. What an awesome topic. I study this, I teach this. And I think the biggest thing as I start with this entry is to really kind of help people understand Jesus. We've been conditioned to think that Jesus came to bring a religion to the earth, and that is not correct. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7. That's one of the main scriptures I really want to talk in this segment. I have another segment coming. But this segment, I really want to focus on Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7. Verse 6 says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government," all right, "the government will be upon his shoulders. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." And verse 7 says, "Of the growth of his government." Now, if government is mentioned in verse 6 and verse 7, that's important. The government and peace, there will be no end. He will rule over his kingdom, sitting on the throne of David, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the heavenly army will accomplish this. Now, looking at this, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7, you see government two times. I think it's also, when we read our Constitution, it's vital that we understand what it is, what it says, but also we also have to understand what it didn't say. It did not say, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and his religion will be on his shoulders." His religion and peace, there shall be no end. It emphatically said his government. So it's important that we understand that Jesus came to establish a government, which means he was very involved in politics. And I know we look at the world now and think, how can a wonderful, loving Jesus be a part of politics? Why? Because politics has been so tarnished around the world. When you say you're a politician, we automatically assume the mindset. You cheat, you lie, you say what people want to hear, you give empty promises. So I know that we really, religion and various things, our culture, we've stained the mindset with government and politicians. So it's so important that we take the time, and as you hear from me, as the other two distinguished guests, we're going to make it very clear that Jesus, his whole focus was never to establish a religion in the earth. That was never his intention. He started all the way back in Genesis, and I'm going to talk about that in my second segment. But I really want you to understand today from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7. Jesus came to establish a government, his government, all right? He came to establish his government. Now, what is the word government? Government comes from the whole mindset, principles that govern, principles that govern. And we're going to find out today the wonderful principles that God has established for us. We lost the government when Adam decided in Genesis 3 to go his own way. God established this. Psalms 115, verse 16 says, the heavens belongs to the Lord, but the earth he's given to the sons of men. God came to establish his government and gave man the awesome opportunity to oversee this in the earth. But in Genesis 3, man decided that he didn't want to do that. So therefore, God had to create a salvage plan, because what God instituted in the earth, he's going to make sure that it is fulfilled. Heaven is a kingdom. He wanted to extend that kingdom, and he called it the earth. He wanted children. He established children and put them in the earth to oversee it. And one day, according to Revelations 22, heaven and earth will come together. And God will make sure that he reigns with his children forever, and they will rule and reign together. So the first thing I really want you to understand today is Jesus came for one purpose only. Matthew 4:17 says, when Jesus began his ministry, he said, what? Repent, for the kingdom, government is at hand. So his whole focus was to establish a government here on the earth that totally is in alignment with the kingdom of heaven. All right, Ambassador Veronique, back to you.
Dr. David Banks, you don't know, I just talked about government early in my early session today, and you didn't even watch it, and you just come in and you confirm exactly what I said. Oh my goodness. We are living under another type of government. Why did Jesus were born under the Roman Empire? It was to bring the government. And you just say government is the principle that governs, with all about government. I can't wait to hear what Ambassador Ihama have to say. Thank you very much for that, for that great introduction of the topic, the dynamics of politics, the dynamics of leadership, the politics of Jesus Christ. Wow, wow, wow. It's mind-blowing. We are really in for a great treat. Please, Ambassador Ihama.
Well, thanks certainly for having me on your show, Veronique. I love your passion. I love your focus. I love your determination. Born to change the world. That's what's on your footer. Absolutely. I stand with you on that. And thanks certainly to the other ambassador, Dr. Banks. You nailed it on the head. We're only here to really complement the truth. And if we are saying the truth, which we all are, then we are unified in this. And certainly I'm excited to be here with Hubert all the way from Africa. I miss my beloved motherland. You know, the politics of Jesus. Politics, unfortunately, has developed a negative connotation. When you hear, even when you tell your parents, I want to be a politician, they freak out. No, 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 I don't want you to be a politician, because politicians are known, unfortunately, not all of them, but certainly some have given the reputation of being devious, of being deceptive, and different things like that. But politics in itself, it's a concept that is meant to bless humanity. The verse I always jump to, the passage in the Bible, and I love it because it really is what we should echo in such a time as this. The Bible says, righteousness and justice are the foundations of a strong. Righteousness and justice are the foundations of a government, or meant to be the foundations of a government. Righteousness and justice are the foundations of your home, if your home is based on kingdom principle. Righteousness and justice. We can learn 21 irrefutable laws. We can learn 7 principles. We can learn 20, all these books and all this concept, but it comes down really to righteousness and justice are the foundations of his throne. It says, with the coming of Christ, he brought in the kingdom. The kingdom of God is here. It's a philosophy, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle. It's how we are meant to govern, how we are meant to lead, how we are meant to live. So with that foundation, as in righteousness and justice, then when you look at what's going on today, I think Veronique mentioned it well. There's the race issue going on, racism, and the violent rate. In fact, in the U.S., over the long Independence Weekend, 150 people were killed in one weekend in the United States. On when you are supposed to be celebrating independence. Of course, the governments have moved away from righteousness and justice. Of course, the people in positions of authority don't even know or understand the concept of righteousness and justice. I mean, the schools don't teach righteousness and justice. So when you say you went to school to get a master's degree in government without understanding the concept of righteousness and justice, you've missed it. Without those two, the humanity is just going to be like a hamster running around with no end in sight, which is why this kind of platform, this kind of event, this kind of people, this kind of listeners, those who are listening here today, is because in most cases, I believe that you understand or want to understand this concept of righteousness and justice. You want to understand what your place is in the grand scheme of things. In my book, The Mystic of Leadership, I define leadership very simple, is a spirit. Leadership is a spirit that can only be ignited by purpose, sustained by passion, and guided by principles. You look at the passion you are experiencing here today. Even if technology were to mute us and you can just see the hands moving and the eyes popping out, look at Veronique, look at Dr. Banks, and wait to see Hubert, then you understand that until you get to a place where you recognize the exact purpose with which you were created, no matter the position of authority you have, you are not a leader. We have people in positions of authority that have no idea, no clue whatsoever what their purpose is. They may have a role, they may have a list of responsibilities and even accountabilities. Without tying that to your purpose in life, it's just a walk in the park. What isn't leadership? Leadership is not positions of authority. It's not about popularity. It's not about prosperity. Those may be the fringe benefits that may come with it, but leadership, my friend, until you find your place in life, you are out of place. And that is really what it comes down to. So Jesus, coming back to the author and the finisher of our faith and our salvation, was an exceptional example. In fact, there is no rival. It's Jesus and the others. No matter how good you are, no matter how strong, how talented, how passionate, no matter how brilliant, you are part of the others. Jesus in a class of his own, because he's God here on earth as man. And he was a perfect, his lifestyle, his mindset, his thought process, his action, his way of being, his way of talking. Jesus, should we stone this woman? He said, let he who has not seen through the first stone. Jesus, should we pay taxes to Caesar? He said, give me a coin and tell me whose face is on that coin. Those are political conversation, right? Those are political conversation. The woman at the well, political conversation. Those are the ability to literally carry everybody along to a place of harmony, a place of unity, a place of peace, which was certainly his purpose here on earth, or part of his purpose here on earth. And that is what we're here to do today, to help you, to help us, to help everybody, those who are listening live and those who will be watching this later part, to understand that you have a place to play in the grand scheme of things. Leaders don't blame, leaders don't complain, leaders don't make excuses. If you take those three alone and work with that, your leadership spirit will begin to bubble. Leaders don't blame, they don't complain, and they don't make excuses. So thanks again for the opportunity to be here. I'm looking forward to a dynamic conversation. Ambassador Veronique, over to you. God bless.
Wow, my goodness, you just nailed it. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ihama, all the way from Canada. You just nailed it. You just nailed it. And I like the fact that you brought it really narrow by saying that, unfortunately, the politics of this day, the people, they don't want to go in it because they think that it's wrong. But why our master teacher, while he was on here, what he was doing, he just spoke almost everything about politics. Politics is the concept to bless humanity. And that is created by God himself. You say clearly that righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Therefore, righteousness and justice supposed to be the foundation of every government, of every nation, and even of every home. So if the righteousness and justice are the foundation of our home, then we will see it actually in our nation too. And I love the fact that you say, what the school is teaching today. If we teach the righteousness and justice in our school today, then we're going to see the replication after in our nation or in the government. But we are not teaching righteousness and justice in our school today. Rather, we're teaching Marxism and communism in our school. And you define leadership in your own definition is the spirit that can only be ignited by purpose and sustained by a passion. Wow. Thank you very much. How Jesus Christ spoke to the woman on the well, how Jesus Christ spoke about the taxes, those all were political conversation that he was doing. They were nothing to do with tradition, and they were nothing to do with religious. And please don't put Jesus Christ in the box. He is not a religious leader. He is not here just for the church, as the people think that it's just in the building. And you gave it where you say, as a leader, we do not need to blame, nor complain, nor have an excuse. I can't wait to hear what Ambassador Hubert Sujira Aki Ketema, I hope that I'm pronouncing your name well, all the way from Rwanda. And by the way, I wanted to say hello and welcome to Bishop Dr. Peter Morgan, all the way from, I don't know whether he's in Trinidad or whether he's in Jamaica, or whether he's even in the US, but I want to say thank you very much, Daddy, to show it up today on our platform and watching. Hubert, your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronique. It's really, it's an honor and a challenge at the same time to have to speak after my big brothers, and welcome as well to Papa Morgan. This is a very interesting and very important topic, the dynamics of leadership, because everything, and Dr. Monroe used to say this, and I agree with him 100%, that everything rise and fall on leadership. Me personally, coming to you from East Africa, exactly from Rwanda, we lived to see that this statement is true. These last few days, actually 2 days ago, we are celebrating the 27th anniversary of liberation of our country, where on that day, we had the exact same date as the United States when they were celebrating their Independence Day. In July, on the 4th of July in 1994, that's when our country shifted from a bad leadership to a good leadership. And the rest is history, because the country went from a failed state because of leadership to now being named among the best in Africa to do business, number one clean, the most clean African city. All of these things happened because of one single thing. The mountains didn't move. People did not really change. They're still the same. The only thing that changed was leadership. Now, when we bring in Jesus there, the most important leader that ever lived, is really amazing how he's misunderstood, because most of people, when they think about leadership, when they think about Jesus, they do not think about leadership. But even when you see how the world, either leadership or even politics, because we are dealing with the politics of Jesus. The word politics is defined as the activities associated with the governance of a country or area, especially the debate between parties having power. Now, I do not like this one because it implies that for leadership or politics to happen, you need parties, which is what in my personal experience in our country, we still have political parties, but we do not have them as coming in to oppose one another. They are coming in to build together. There is a line that even political parties have to follow, because at the end of the day, most of what we have as politics, most of what we have as leadership, I want us to see Jesus from a different perspective. How, when he came on the scene, he came from a religious background. He was not a religious guy, but he came from a religious system. But his aim was to challenge the system to become leaders. You know, this good example, or this good definition of politics, is activities aimed at improving someone's status or increasing power within an organization. And I like this part where they say that politics is any activity that is aimed at improving someone's life. Now, if anyone had a purpose and an assignment to improve other people's lives, it's Jesus. That's why you cannot talk about politics without talking about Jesus. When Jesus showed up, and my brother was talking about this woman at the well, politics, you are involved in politics when your aim is to provide answers to people. And that's exactly what leadership is. Leadership is the ability to see solutions to the issues. That's how I define leadership. You are a leader when you are in the business of providing solutions. That's why I get excited when I think about Africa with so many challenges, or any other country you're in, because when people are complaining, that's a bad seed for leaders to emerge and show up and bring solutions. That's what Jesus did. When Jesus showed up and saw a guy who was blind, he said, "What do you want me to do?" That's leadership at work. And the guy said, "I want to see." And Jesus said, "You can recover your sight." When Jesus went and saw a woman who was about to be stoned because she did something wrong, his leadership kicked in, and he had to provide a solution to that same woman, and at the same time save people who were around, because he said, "The one who did not sin, let him cast the first stone." That's leadership at work. Now, for those who are still struggling with the idea of Jesus being a leader, or being even in politics, look at what happened when he was about to die. When they invited him to a religious court, he did not say a word, because it was a wrong court. But when he went to Pilate, who was a political leader, he started speaking, talking, because he was in the right court. And do you know that when Pilate was talking about releasing Jesus, they said, "We have no other king." You see, they brought in leadership, and that's when the Pilate said, "Whoa," when they're bringing in now, they said, "We have no other king than, because they were saying Jesus is portraying himself as a king. Jesus was a political leader, not as political we know, who are selling themselves short. Leadership is not making the difference between a leader and what we so-called leaders who are not, who are just people who are confused because they have no purpose. And you said it very well, Veronique, when you're talking about leadership being ignited by purpose, by passion. Most of people we so-called leaders do not have leadership because they do not have a vision. Most of leaders do not have vision. They have programs, which is very different from leadership. I call a leader someone who is purpose and service driven, someone who's solution and excellence oriented. I call only a leader a person who is a system and structure centered. Not what you're doing is not leadership when whatever you're doing is centered on you as a human. If what you're doing is not centered around the system to make it happen, then you're not a leader. A true leader, talking about the dynamics of leadership, is someone whose vision and next generation focused. And last but not least, a true leader, in my eyes, is someone who is principle and values grounded. And when you see the lists I just stated, purpose and service driven, solution and excellence oriented, systems and structure centered, vision and next generation focused, and principles and values oriented, you see Jesus. Jesus was so focused on the next generation because the last few days, Jesus spent 3 years and he did not build a mega church. He had a lot of people following him, but he focused on 12 people because he was not focused on himself. He wanted to build a structure that will run the organization, will make sure that his vision to bring back the kingdom of God on the earth is successful in his absence. He was so next generation oriented that he left us with 12 people, and they did a very good job that more than 2,000 years later, we are still talking and using and doing the exact same thing he was doing. Jesus was so structured, centered, that he built a system saying, it's better for me to go away. Because if I do not go away, you will not do greater things. He wanted what he was building to be around, or to be built around, a structure that will make sure it will be taken into the next generations. That's why we do not have many leaders, even in the church, unfortunately. Alex saying that leadership is ignited by purpose, sustained by passion, guided by principles. I like that. Now, I will add that leadership is the art to bring solutions that are purpose and service driven, that are solution and excellence oriented. Those solutions have to be system and structure centered to make sure that whatever you're bringing on the table does not die with you. You have to make sure, if you are a true leader, that whatever you're doing, and I'm learning all of these things from Jesus, you have to be vision and next generation oriented. And last but not least, a true leader is someone who's bringing a solution that is principles and values grounded. Because your leadership is as safe as the principles and values that are ground whatever you're doing. We can learn a lot of things from Jesus, not only from the leadership point of view, But leaders are also, they're passionate about seeing the betterment of humanity. Jesus was so, one day he cried because he was touched, not because death could have anything to him. He knew he was going to conquer death. But when he went to Lazarus and he saw how his family, how everybody was in despair, how people were lost because of death, he cried. He was full of compassion. True leaders are not only goal-oriented or focused, but they are compassionate. Whatever they do is to make the life of others better. We can learn a lot of things from Jesus when it comes to leadership, how he led, how he organized his team, how he made sure that whatever he was doing, his disciples could do. If you call yourself a leader and a follower of Jesus, my only question right now is, who can do better than you do when you're no longer there? If you're not preparing anyone to take over whatever solution you're bringing, then you're not emulating Jesus as a leader. And he said, follow me. This is what Paul said, follow me as I'm following Christ. Followers of Christ, of Jesus, if you call yourself a follower of Christ, you have to be not only goal-oriented or focused, but compassionate, and make sure that your next generation, in your mind, you have to be thinking about who is going to do better than I'm doing. And I will rest my case here, looking forward to have the discussion and hearing from others, but I'm really excited to see that a new breed of African leaders is rising that is not only goal-oriented, but people with compassion about our people.
Wow.
Back to you, Veronique.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Hubert Sujora, all the way from Rwanda. And I'm so glad that you were able to join the panel today, despite of what is taking shape in Rwanda with that curfew. Wow. You start by saying everything lies and falls on leadership. And you gave a very impactful example by using Rwanda as a picture, how since 1994, leadership of Rwanda shifted from bad to good. And today it's recorded that we could see clean water, and then they have a social rest. And that is a result of leadership. And you define politics. I'm not going to go back there because they put it already on the screen. And then you say that challenge the system to become. You cannot talk about politics without talking about Jesus, because he was a politician. His ability to provide solution when people are complaining is an opportunity to a leader to arise or to demonstrate that a leader is here. And you say, are you a leader or are you someone who are just following program? I'm just putting on my own word, because you say that when leaders do not have their own vision, what they actually do, they actually making programs. And we see all the way, everywhere, even in our nations, many nations today, they don't have a vision of the nation. They have program. So whatever you are doing, if it's centered on you, then you are not a leader yet. I hope that all our audience today are going to take that one into account and double check again whether everything they are doing is it centered about them, or are they centered about the next generation, or providing solution to the system. Jesus didn't build a mega church. I love that one, because today we just see all those mega churches who are actually falling and crumbling. Jesus never built a mega church, but he built a strong structure. And that structure is still standing over 2,000 years ago. I love it. A structure is better than a mega church. A structure is better because the structure always outlasts people. Leadership is the act to bring solution. And we have to be more next generation focused, solution focused, excellence and value and principle focused. True leaders are not only goals focused, but they are the ones who are also more compassionate. Jesus was very compassionate. Who can do better after you are no more around in your organization? Who can do better after you are no more? Don't repeat the failure of Joshua. Joshua was a powerful leader, but he was not a great leader, because the whole book of Judges speaks about the leadership of Joshua. Thank you very much, Hubert, for that input. And now I would like to hear more from Dr. David Benz. The floor is yours.
Very nice. Wow. This is great. This is a great conversation. This is what I love. Thank you so much, Ambassador Alex and Ambassador Hubert. As you've heard, we're really trying to give you an accurate picture of leadership. You also heard to understand that leadership is not just having power over people. That's not the focus. One of the biggest things that I feel that God has me in the earth is to really undo what society and what religion has taught us and really go back to the original. So I really want to take this time and really have leaders to really put pen to paper and go back to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 is where God laid out his visionary plan of leadership. Genesis chapter 1. Who knew? He put it in the very first chapter of the Bible. If you want to understand leadership, Genesis chapter 1 is where he put it. Now, leadership, as we've heard, is all about making sure that you understand the dynamics, the dimensions of making life better for someone else. It's the whole focus. Sadly, we think leadership is all about making the leader look good. That's not the focus. The focus on leadership, we have the mantle of leadership. Why? Not to make us look good or to stroke our ego, but to impact somebody else. That's the whole focus. So if you are a leader, I need you to understand there are three main dimensions of leadership. It's found in Genesis chapter 1. I'm going to briefly go over them. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So the very first dimension of leadership is vision. Ambassador Hubert did an excellent job. It's vision, not people. If your whole mind thinking, I'm a leader, why? Because I have people under me, behind me, my friend, that's not where leadership starts. Leadership starts first, not with people, but with vision. As a good leader, your whole focus is making sure the people see the vision instead of you. If you are always letting people know, I'm the leader, my friend, you are insecure. All right. The whole focus of leadership is to put a vision before them. And when Jesus started writing the Constitution, the very first thing he said was, in the beginning, what? God created the heavens and the earth. He already wanted to put the vision. Began with the end in mind. That's what leadership is all about, is helping the people see something that they have never experienced before. That's what leadership is. When Jesus came to the earth, he wanted us to see something that we've never been accustomed to. So first thing you got to have is vision. So leaders, regardless in whatever you're in, whether you're an educator, whether you're in business or in government, give the people a vision. Give them something to see other than you. All right. So that's the first thing, vision. All right. The second thing, Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 says, the earth was formless, void, and dark. All right. So there was a problem. All right. So first he said, I'm going to show you a vision. But then we see in Genesis 1:2, the earth was formless. That's a problem. That's a problem. So what did he do? He created a system. That's the second thing that a leader needs to have. A leader needs to have a vision, and he needs to have systems. All right. As you can see, leadership is not all having power over people, but making sure that you have a vision that the people see and that you have a system. So when he saw the earth was formless, void, and dark, he said, we need to create a system. Now, what's the system? The system is called a system of order. Because he says the earth was formless, void, and dark. Water was everywhere. That's not what heaven looks like, all right? So it says the spirit was moving, waiting for God to speak. So when God started creating the system, he started putting everything in order. He divided the water up in the third heaven, water under the ground, and water on the ground. Now, the water that was once on the ground now is dry land. I'm going to allow vegetation to grow. So as you see, Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 through 25, all God was doing is putting things in order, putting things in order. That's how you develop things. System of order. He had a vision. This is what I need it to look like. He had a process, and through that becomes a productive outcome. All right. So a system of order. The third thing, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, after he had a vision, I want earth to complement heaven. That's why Matthew, when the disciples asked him, teach us how to pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done where? On earth, just like it is where? In heaven. That was the vision. The vision for earth was to reflect heaven. All right. Then he created a system. He created a system of order. And then thirdly, he created management. Genesis 1:26. Then God said, then God said what? Let us make man in our image and let him have what? Dominion over. Look at this. Fish of the sea, birds of the air, over everything that creeps upon the earth. Now, if leadership was all about having power over people, why didn't he say, let him have dominion over people? But what did he say? Let him have dominion over what? Birds in the sky, fish in the sea. What God was trying to help Adam understand, Adam, this is what order looks like. You being a leader in the earth, your whole focus is to maintain what order looks like. All right. That's your whole focus. I need you to take over. I need you to manage this. I put everything in order for you. Now, what you need to do is to manage it. So as an effective leader, you got to have vision. You got to have something that they can see beyond where they are. All right. Good leaders help people see the vision of where we're trying to go, what we're trying to accomplish. That gives them motivation. Second, you got to have a system. You got to have a system of order, and then you got to have management, putting people managing the system. That's the whole focus. So as an effective leader, when they create this culture in the ministry, in corporate America, in education, when they create this culture of leadership, that's when you see progress. That's when you see people moving in places they've never entered before. That is what Jesus shared with us in the very first chapter in Genesis. And that is something now that we can take and use it in every aspect, in the education field, in other areas, in the ministry. This is what we need to do and take with us. Back to you, Ambassador Veronique.
Wow. Wow, Dr. David Benz. It's just getting better and better and better. My goodness. Now you have a structure. Ambassador Hubert was talking about Jesus being so focused on structure, and Dr. David Benz just lay out how that structure looked like. He just gave us the first book of our Constitution in the first article, Genesis chapter 1, Genesis verse 1, chapter 1 verse 1, Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, and Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. He spoke about vision. That is the whole panoramic view of God when he have mankind in mind. He has vision, which He wanted to see the end from the beginning, as we know that always our Creator sees the end from the beginning. So he laid out his vision, the master plan. And what he did next, he built on that one a system of order. When he came out, he saw the cows, he responded the cows to with an order. So we have to actually replicate that order on the earth. And in Genesis chapter 126, after he did that, what he did, he now breathed a manager in stage. Management. Those are the three keys that he gave: vision, system of order, and management. He said, if we have an effective leader who can recreate or create the same culture in our government, in our school, in the ministry, or whether it's an ecclesia or organization, we will see the progress in our world today. Are you that leader who want to do it, replicate the culture of heaven on the earth? Wow, wow, wow. Thank you very much, Dr. David Benz, for that input. Now back to Ambassador Alex Ihama, all the way from Canada, the School of Greatness.
Yes. Thank you so much, Veronique, and certainly Dr. Banks. Loved how you brought it right to the beginning. Everything, in life, no matter the challenge you face, if you just go back to the beginning, you can walk your way through it. Because the reason we find ourselves where we find ourselves, in places that we would rather not be, is because we have walked the wrong direction. I often say we never fall in trouble. We see it, we walk right into it, thinking we can walk through it, and then we claim to have fallen into it. Go back to the beginning, and that's what Dr. Banks just did. Thank you so much. We've talked a lot about what leadership is and what it should be, and that is often what the topic always is when you watch programs or videos or even attend events. Let me use my few minutes to shed light on more of what's missing in today's leadership, but what never was missing in what I call exceptional leadership, kingdom leadership that Jesus fostered for us. The very first thing that people have somehow stripped out of leadership is spirituality. It is the thought of simple things like love your neighbor as yourself, right? Jesus looked at the rich young ruler, say what you have, come and follow me. Or love your neighbor as yourself, love your enemies. These have become foreign concepts to people, but these are really the essence of leadership. What I'm sharing actually is part of what I call the 7 organic laws of exceptional leadership. Right? Law number 1 is spirituality. Law number 2 is sacrifice. Number 3 is strategy. Number 4 is service. Number 5 is substance. And number 6 is success. And number 7 is successor. Certainly, I don't have the time to go through all that. I'm just going to highlight the top first 3, which I just talked about, is the law of spirituality. A lot of people, the reason they try to keep spirituality out of leadership, because they confuse spirituality for religiosity. Spirituality is a mindset. Religiosity is an institution. It's literally a structure that people have built to hold back other people from the purpose God has for them. So don't confuse the two at all. So the essence of leadership is spirituality. To even think for once, or even for a second, that you can lead without spirituality is absurd, because leadership at its best is spirituality, literally at its best. Right? Take the book of 1 Corinthians. I took this in a conference and they were just amazed at it. I said, it said love is kind, love is patient, love is kind. Leadership is patient, leadership is kind. Leadership doesn't boast, leadership doesn't envy. Love and leadership are synonymous. It's the same thing. You can't separate them. The most important concept is love. It said love conquers all. So to attempt to lead without loving is already misguided. Again, I'm re-emphasizing what would have been taken out from leadership to make it dictatorship. In fact, dictatorship is not a form of leadership. Dictatorship is the absence of leadership. Dictatorship, you take love from leadership, it becomes dictatorship. So let's be very clear on that. Quickly, I drag in sacrifice, which I won't spend a lot of time on because we all understand that. I think Hubert said it. If what you're doing is all to benefit yourself, you are not a leader, but rather a lover of self. And if that's where you want to be, unfortunately, that's where you are. We are calling you to rise up. Sacrifice means to do things for people at your own inconvenience, not at your convenience. You have $1 million and you give $10. That's not sacrifice. We see that in the parable of the widow who gave a little. And the Bible, Jesus said she gave out of nothing, really. So you have a lot, you give a little, right? These days, for tax purposes, we are fond of donating $1 million, yet we are worth $10 billion. And you say, yes, I'm charitable, I'm sacrificial. No, that's not what we're talking about. So again, the first law is the law of spirituality. The second one, the law of sacrifice. And the third one, for time purpose, I'll stop here, is the law of strategy. Strategy, most people confuse it for plan. I have 21 differences between what a strategy is and what a plan is, right? It certainly won't be able to go through the 21, but let me leave you with this. My definition of a strategy is a strategy is a combination of multiple plans that must work together simultaneously and sequentially to achieve the same objective. If you don't have up to 12, 21 plans working together to achieve something, you don't have a strategy, basically. Right? So a leadership, the concept of servant leadership is a tautology. The concept of strategic leadership is a tautology, because leadership by definition is serving. So you can't say I'm a servant leader. You're either a leader or you're not. You can't say I'm a strategic leader, because leadership has strategy embedded in it. So I leave you with these 3 laws out of the 7, what I call 7 organic laws I wrote in my book, The Mystic of Leadership, and say the law of spirituality, keep that in mind, the law of sacrifice, keep that in mind, and certainly the law of strategy. Whatever idea comes to you, you must have 21 plans that must work together to achieve it. Not one, or else you don't have a strategy. So leadership today has been watered down because they've stripped spirituality out of it, stripped sacrifice out of it, and certainly they've taken strategy out of it. So I urge you, I challenge you, I implore you, take those 3 laws and go be the leader that you're created to be. Over to you, my dear friend and sister, Ambassador Veronique.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ambassador Iyama. That is so great. My goodness. The first thing people draw away from spirituality, and this is what we're seeing today in our world, the vacuum of spirituality, because people mix spirituality with religiosity, which are totally two sets of hand, or two, what you call it, something totally different. And you gave us spirituality laws, sacrifice, service, and success. So you couldn't go through, but if you can type those 6 laws and type the title of your book on the chat box, so that the audience can maybe find a book and then they will go read it, because we want to cause the people to become the leader that God created them to be. So you gave us thus far those 3 key. The laws of spirituality is the mindset, which is totally different from religiosity. And then it's the first best thing. Spirituality is almost equal to love. As you say in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, you replace love with leadership, and then you could get it together. So people who are leading without love are actually not leading. It's only called anarchy or anarchy. And the dictatorship is the absence of the lack of leadership. And you gave us the law of sacrifice, not sacrifice based on what is convenient to the person, but what is convenient to me, but sacrifice what is convenient to one I wanted to help. I like that one. And the law of strategy, you define strategy as the combination of multiple plans that must work together to achieve the goal or the end that you were looking for. Wow. For the sake of time, I could not even read all what you say, but I wrote it down, everything. And thank you very much as you write the 7 organic laws. Can you bring that the 7 organic law on the up front so that the people could read it? Actually, the 7 organic law of leadership, you have the law of spirituality, the laws of sacrifice, the law of strategy, the law of service, the law of substance, the law of success, and the law of succession. 7 organic laws. You could find it in the book of The Mystic of Leadership by Alex Ihama. 7 organic law of leadership: the law of spirituality, the law of sacrifice, the law of strategy, the law of service, the law of substance, and the law of success, and the law of succession. That will qualify you to be the great leader. Remember, there is a powerful leader and there's a great leader, and there's a difference between the two. You could be so powerful, but you are not a great leader. And we're looking for great leader, not powerful leader. We are looking for great leader. Jesus Christ was an influential and great leader, and still be today. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. My. I want to hear now from Hubert.
Yeah, thank you very much. Man, this is so good. I'm just soaking in and hearing what how we bringing in different perspective of leadership. And I want to come back to the to what we're talking about. Why is it that when we think about Jesus, when we talk about Jesus, we do not bring him in as a leader? Where does this misunderstanding come from? I think why we do not see, when we think about Jesus, the first thing that comes to our minds is not a leader or even a politician, is because what we call politicians are professional manipulators. They are not leaders. Dr. Monroe used to say that we need more leadership in politics than more leaders or than more politicians in leadership. Because what we know today as leaders, when we think about leadership, and someone said, when you are leading and nobody's following, you are simply taking a walk, because that's the definition of leadership we have. In our minds, in most of people's minds, not in my mind, in most of people's minds, when we think about leadership, when we hear that word leadership, we see a pyramid way of leading. We see one person at the top and everybody who's following. But that have never been the intention of God. And I like what my brother, the doctor, said at the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning. In the beginning, God created the earth. And the first statement about you and me is, let us make man in our own image, in our likeness, and let them, not one, let them, all of them have dominion over the earth. Let all of them have leadership over the earth. Let all of them be the rulers of the earth. That's right there is in total opposite notion of leadership most of people have. What happened along the way is when we did not want to follow God's way of doing leadership, because Adam, the first man, rebelled against God and wanted to do his own way, his own things. Instead of having a leadership together with his wife, he decided or wanted to, even the idea itself from the devil tempting Adam was a leadership challenge, because God wanted Adam to be a leader to submit himself under the leadership of God. Leadership is that capacity to see a better future for other humans, accept to pay the price for it, and make sure to build a system that will sustain that future. And I like what everybody was saying about having a system and explaining the structure and all of that. But all I want us to have in these few minutes I have with you guys is to understand why even the church today, the followers of Jesus, are not leading the world. It's because When we think about Jesus, we do not think about leadership. And yet when they asked him who he was, he said, I was born to be a king. Yes, of course, he was one of the prophets. But when they asked him who he was, he defined himself as a king, as a leader. But we do not see him that way because the only leadership notions we have are from the Greeks. The Greeks believed that leadership is, some people are born to be leaders, others are born to be followers. Jesus came, the Bible says in the book of Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, that in the fullness of time, God sent his son, born under the law. The fullness of time is defined when the Greeks, when the Romans were ruling the world. The Romans did not invent politics or leadership as we know it today. Greeks did. But what Romans did, they managed to learn and master the Greek philosophy of leadership and managed to disseminate it all around the world. The Roman Empire was the largest empire at the time. And Jesus was born exactly in the midst of that. Do you know why? Because he was coming to deal with one single thing, and he was coming to deal with leadership. Do you realize that the only thing Jesus said, telling his followers to never do as others do, was that pyramidal structure of leadership? When there is one guy on the top, he said, you want to be great. Your leaders overrule you. But he said, if you want to be a leader, the only thing he dealt with that was happening back in the days, he said, I do not want to hear this among you, was the leadership structure. Where you are, if you are a leader, you are one at the top and everybody else is following you. That's why leadership is not about power, but it's about empowering others. Because leadership is a line. All of us are leaders in our own way. A true leader, as Jesus said, is the one who serves his life. He said, I come to serve as a lump sum to many. He said, if you want to be great, if you want to be a leader, and he did not say it was wrong. Even when the brothers came to him trying to buy leadership, they were trying to buy leadership positions. As I said, most of people we call leaders are professional manipulators. They do not build on bringing solutions. The proof is when in your country, those we call leaders or politicians, when we have election campaigns, it's always about trying to bring down other candidates. I'm glad in my country do not have that kind of leadership, where we have political parties, but they all work together for the betterment of our country. Even some people get excited when they say, oh, there is no opposition. Did you hear that? Opposition. That's people trying to oppose what a leader is doing. Now, true leadership is about empowering others. There is no need for opposition if leadership is empowering everybody. The linear leadership structure, as God intended it, when he said, let us make man in our own image, in our likeness, and let them have dominion, was for all of us to work together toward one single purpose of bringing God's kingdom on the earth. And God's kingdom on the earth is this system that governs the earth, where everyone, each and everyone, can fulfill his own purpose and his own life assignment. Now, coming back to Jesus, when Jesus was dealing with this same thing, I do believe personally that the only reason, one of the main reasons Jesus came, was to crush the head, as he said, of Romans' leadership philosophy. Where Romans believed that people like me were born not to lead. Colonization and all of these crops we hear is a result of people who believe that we were created by God to be leaders, but others were created to be followers. The proof of what was happening in Jesus' disciples' mind is when there were only 12 of them and they were asking themselves, who's the greatest? Who's the leader among us? Because in their minds, there was a pyramid. They have to be one on the top and everybody's following. I wonder what is happening in your family. I wonder what is happening, you who's calling yourself a follower of Jesus, in your church. Are you the only one who decided in your family and everybody else is following? Jesus said, for you to be a leader, because this is his leadership philosophy. We are talking about the politics of Jesus. This is his philosophy of leadership. The philosophy of Jesus, of leadership of Jesus was, if you want to be great, if you want to be a leader, find a problem other people have and serve them the solution. And make sure to build the structure and the system to sustain it as you do it. Jesus came and he said, let not that oppression, having that mindset of being a leader only when everybody else is following or is oppressed, let that not be heard among you. Let us be leaders as Jesus was and give ourselves as ransom to others. And ending here, I'm asking you a question. You who is following Jesus, what are you doing for humanity? What do you do for others to benefit from your life? Because that's exactly what was Jesus' leadership philosophy. It was to give himself for others to have life. Now, it does not necessarily need for you to die. But dying is not necessarily being physically killed. But it's dying from your ego, dying from you having power, but making sure that you empower everybody around you.
We lost you. We can't hear you. Can you hear us? We lost your sound, Ambassador Hubert. We lost your sound. Can you hear us? No, we can't hear you. We lost your sound. We lost. Can you hear? We can't hear you. Is that okay? We lost his sound. I think that he's going to come back. So by the time he's fixing himself, let's see what he's already said. I'm glad that he's touching again about the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire, as I stated this morning, actually is that all the government of this world has been ruled by Roman Empire. Actually, the Greek in thought, but Roman Empire in action. So Jesus, to be born under the Roman Empire, was to crush the head of the Roman Empire leadership, the way they were trying to put the people under slavery, and it's been continuing over centuries, even though the kingdom of God, the government of God, is on the earth over 2,000 years ago. Wow. And he spoke about leadership is the capacity to see the better future. When we think of Jesus, people often do not think of Jesus as a politician because they have a religious mindset. They see Jesus only as the savior. So that put Jesus into the box. But Jesus himself, he said that he's the king. What does the king do? The priests are not the one to pass policies. Kings pass policies or police. So Jesus coming under the Roman Empire was for one purpose, bringing back the kingdom of God on the earth. And then what we see out today, as Ambassador Hubert was saying, the people we see in the Roman Empire that has a pyramid, And the pyramid is something that for all the people who study Maslow, that comes from Maslow. And so that they want to have one people at the top and then they have everybody who is followed. But Jesus came to say, okay, everyone in the same line. Everyone, no matter your race, your color, your money, the bank account, everyone is in the same line in this kingdom. And then let lead together. Let empower each other. Is what I got all from Ambassador Hubert. Can you go back again? Hubert, did you fix your sound?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Yes. I think I was almost done. All I was saying was that Jesus left us the model, the best model of leadership, and it was to serve ourselves, to others. That's the only way you can be great. Do you know what pains me most is that the world is doing that to be great, while the children of God are not understanding that you become great when you serve others. Today we say people like Jeff Bezos are the richest people. Why? Because they serve others. While we're sleeping, they're making sure that you receive your package. And what do? You pay them money. A lot of believers are here crying, praying, fasting, instead of finding solutions in their communities. Jesus' way of leadership was, wherever I go, whatever problems I find, I have a solution for it. You know, people would come to him to hear the word. He was preaching and doing miracles. And he found out, these people have been following me for a few days. They're hungry. And in his leadership mind, he was like, guys, this is an opportunity for you to exercise leadership. He told his disciples, feed these people. When we talk about leadership, and we're not talking about serving, in churches we should be teaching and equipping people, training people on becoming solution to their problems. You should pray and fast and spend all of this amazing time doing so for solutions. Stop praying for cars. Stop praying for houses. Those are byproducts. Oh, by the way, when you bring solutions to people, they pay for those solutions. I think when we talk about the dynamics of leadership, and especially bringing Jesus into the equation, we cannot emphasize enough on the fact that if you are a follower of Christ, the first and only thing that should be on your mind every day in and out is, how do I bring a solution where I am? Because that's exactly what Jesus did. He will feed people because they are hungry. He will give back sight to blind people. And the woman who did not have water, he said, I will give you a kind of water that you will never have to go back again. And my question to anyone who's at the sound, who's listening the sound of my voice is, if you follow Christ, what solution are you preparing for your generation? Back to you, Veronique.
Wow. On that note, Ambassador Hubert, I'm going again to reiterate that question to everyone, just in case they were not listening. What solution are you giving to your generation? My goodness. As a follower of Christ, as a student of his school of thought, we ought to be a solution-oriented people or problem solver people. And then you talk about Jeff Bezos. For those of people who do not know, Jeff Bezos is a CEO of Amazon or Amazon. And what did Amazon is doing is just solving problem. And we believers, instead of teaching and equipping and training people to become solution solver, we try to cause them to be sane and go to heaven and clap their hand and say God is good and they want to go to heaven. They're living the earth for who? We don't know. Earth is your habitation and your heritage, just in case you may not know. Earth is your habitation and your heritage. Wow, my goodness. Back to you. Dr. David Benz, back to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Hubert, for that session.
Excellent. Yes, it is truly a pleasure. I am being blessed by these two awesome ambassadors on the earth. I just want to really talk to two types of people. I want to first talk to people that have the title of leadership. I want to talk to you first. So if you have the title of leadership in whatever industry that you're in, I want to talk to you first. And first, I want to say, make sure that your leadership is not solely leaning on the title that you have. Always say, your title does not make you a leader. It only reveals what type of leader you are. So all of you who have a title of leadership, let's make sure, as we've learned today, that leadership doesn't come from a title. Leadership first is inward. You got to be passionate about this. You got to have a heart to impact people, not have power over people. And if you come to the place that I have a heart to impact people, you're ready for leadership. But if you're still thinking that I need this title, I need this power to control people, you're not ready for it. You're not ready for leadership. So I really want to challenge you that have the title of leadership. And I love what Ambassador Herbert said. What are you doing that is going to impact lives way beyond you? And secondly, I want to talk to the people that you don't have a title of leader and you're thinking, I'm a follower, just like we've discussed, thinking that leadership is only reserved for one person. I want to talk to you. Stop resisting leadership, okay? Stop running away from it. Stop thinking, because some of you have been offered leadership positions and you, because of your insecurity, you're thinking, oh no, I can't do that. That's way too much responsibility. I want you to hear me today. Stop running away from leadership. God created us according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Then God said, let us make man in our image and let them, as Ambassador Hubert said. He didn't say let one person have dominion over everything. He said let them have dominion. So all of you who are listening and thinking, I don't have a title. You know, I go to church. I don't have a title of leadership in the church. I'm a worker. I don't have a title in my company. I want you to listen to me to understand that leadership first doesn't come from a title. Leadership derives from that you are sensitive to what's surrounding you and you are creating a solution to deal with a particular problem. So I encourage all of you who don't have a title, first thing you need to do is discover your purpose. When you discover your purpose will position you to lead. God has given us this wonderful opportunity to make a major impact in the earth. So I really want you to absorb everything that you've heard from all of us. God is looking for leaders. God is looking for leaders. As he looks upon this earth, we look in Ezekiel 47. God is looking upon the earth who will stand in the gap. And at that time, he didn't find any. So as we're in the year of 2021, as God is looking upon the earth, let's make sure that we really stand upright and be the leader that God is calling us to be. So that's my challenge That's my challenge to you that have the title of a leader. That's making sure that you're leading from the right perspective, from the right motive. And those of you who you would say, I'm not a leader. Why? Because I don't have a title. I want to challenge you to first discover your purpose. And by you taking the opportunity to discover your purpose will truly position you to be a leader, to make an impact in somebody's life. Thank you. God bless.
That word, Dr. David Benz, my goodness, he gave us two types of people. The people who have title, he addressed them and said, do not let your title define you. Are you leading from right perspective? Don't let your title define you nor control you. And those who do not have a title will say, okay, maybe I'm just a follower. Don't resist the call of God upon your life, or don't resist and walk away from it. First, you need to discover your purpose, and then your purpose will position you to lead. I love that recommendation and that charge. He said it's challenging each one of us. For those who are actually now watching and listening, and those who will come and watch and listen once we are no more in life, these are the charge Dr. David Benz is giving unto you. Those who have a title, are you leading from the right perspective? Do not let your title define you. And those who do not have a title, discover your purpose, and your purpose will position you to lead. My goodness. Thank you very much, Dr. David Benz. Let us hear final remark from Ambassador Alex Ihama.
Yeah, before I give my final remarks, I just want to say this has been a moment of enlightenment, and I know it's been a blessing to everybody that is watching live, and certainly to those that will watch it afterwards. Thanks again, Ambassador Veronique, for creating the platform. You know, I think Dr. Banks said it well. If you're still wondering where you fit in this world, discover your purpose, and your purpose, will make way for you. A mass gift, as the Bible says, will make way for you. But I want to take it even a little step further and say there is a prerequisite to leadership, and that prerequisite is you finding somebody to serve your purpose with. And I'll give you an example. I mean, when Jesus after the baptism and he was starting his ministry, immediately Peter, come with me, this come with me, John, come with me, this come with me, and he had people who were there serving him, serving their gifts through his purpose to the world. Moses, of course, we know, had Aaron, the brother, Miriam, the sister, and of course, Joshua. What's my point? We are in the day and age where everybody wants to be CEO. Nobody wants to be the CFO. Nobody wants to be the HR manager. And everybody, like I go to an event when pre-corona, where you used to give out business cards. If people give out cards, CEO. And I have taken the time to challenge some people that carry the title CEO. They have zero experience in corporate experience, zero. You can, when you leave university and start your organization, it's okay to call yourself a manager. You may own the organization, but it's okay to call yourself a manager, because the truth of the matter is you're managing it. You're not a chief executive officer yet, because you have nobody that reports into you, so to speak, right? There's a difference between entrepreneurs and executives. Entrepreneurs grow and become corporate executives. So these are all dynamics of leadership you don't often hear people talk about. My question to you, I think when Dr. Barnes was talking about, I want to speak to those in positions of authority, and I also want to speak to those who are not. There's a passage from my book I talk about, if you think holding a position of authority makes you a leader, you may never become one. If you also think not holding a position of authority does not make you a leader, you may not become one either. This is a philosophical statement. It's basically saying whether you hold a position of authority or not, there's a leadership spirit in you. My question to you right now is, who are you working with? Who are you partnering with? Whose vision are you supporting? How are you serving your gift to advance the vision that God would have given to others? hopefully you have the spirit of discernment to know that that vision has been given to them by God. So, when Moses was called, the first thing he said is that he made an excuse. I stammer. And God says, as I'm speaking to you, Aaron is on his way. So Moses did not go to call Aaron. God put it on Aaron's heart to support Moses, even though Aaron was older. So the question, who has God placed on your heart to serve? It's a question we must all ask ourselves. Who has God placed on your heart to serve? Because if you cannot serve somebody, you can't truly serve God. It says, how can you claim to love me when you don't love the people you see? You don't even see me, you claim to love me. How can you claim to be serving God when you can't serve those that you see? So the prerequisite to leadership is servitude. You got to serve your gift to somebody you see, somebody you believe in, somebody you admire, somebody you appreciate. And let that be your moment of training. Not even Harvard University can prepare you for that. My closing remark, therefore, is no matter how high, how smart, how tall, how beautiful, how talented, how gifted, how connected, how worthy, how much you have in your bank account, until you can subject yourself to the leadership of another human, you may never have the platform or the opportunity to be served in such a way. So yes, we are all meant to serve God, but God have raised up people to serve men and women. Rise up, my friend, and be the leader who you were called to be. Much love.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ihama, for giving us that prerequisite for leadership, which is servitude. Who are you serving? And he laid out the example of Moses with Aaron, Jesus with the disciple, and all those people who are calling themselves CEOs and they never even have served no one. How can you be a CEO without having serving anybody on your way out or your way in? If you think that a position of authority may not cause you to become one, and also the opposite, he says it. So who has God placed on your heart to serve? Thank you for that final remarks. Wow, 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 wow. Ambassador Hubert, final remark.
Yeah, I think I will just repeat what my brother Alex Ihama just said, because I was thinking when we are talking about leadership and we talking about leadership, the dynamics of leadership and bringing in Jesus, the greatest leader that ever lived. And someone maybe is challenged, is like, man, you're talking about leadership. Leadership is finding a solution to a problem. I haven't found my leadership yet. And this is one of the most question I find or I get when I'm talking about leadership. People come and say, I haven't found my purpose yet. I haven't found my gifts yet, because your leadership is built in you. You are wired for your leadership. You are born and wired specifically for solutions you're supposed to bring. And nobody else is going to do it as you're supposed to do it. You are unique. You are created, wired, I call by God, as in the book of Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, my favorite scripture in the Bible. We are his workmanship, crafted by the hands of God for good works that he prepared beforehand so we may do them. You are created, crafted for good works. Those good works is your leadership. Those good works are the solutions you are supposed to bring. Now, if you haven't found solutions to problems around you, do not get stressed out and say, oh my God, I'm losing it. No. Find anyone in your community who's bringing a solution and go and serve that person. That's exactly what Alex Ihama was saying. Your leadership will come to you when you are prepared. Leadership comes or unrolls in your life in 3 different phases. There is preparation, manifestation, and succession. Preparation is when you find someone who's doing something and you help that person to make it happen. While you do that, that's the only way God is going to open your eyes to your own manifestation. You know, it happened to Jesus. We are talking about Jesus. At 12 years old, he received a revelation of his work. He said, I have to be after my father's businesses. This is him getting excited about his purpose, about his assignment. Do you know what happened? He went out and he thought he was going to do it. And his parents came and took him home. And for 18 years, the only thing we hear about him, he was submitted and was growing. That is Jesus showing us how leadership works. Before you are manifested, before your leadership manifests itself, find someone who's doing something and serve that person. That's exactly what God said, what Jesus said in the talents, the parable of the talents. He said, why didn't you put in the bank? A lot of people did not understand what banks are coming to do there. Banks we are talking about are not these buildings where you put your money. Not necessary. It's not limited to that. But let's use that example for us to understand what Jesus wanted to say. He said, what do you do if you cannot invest your money? Because the least investment you can make with your money is to put it in a bank. Because when you cannot invest yourself your money to multiply it, as the parable of the talents, take that talent, take the gifts, take everything God have given you and put it into someone else's hands who can multiply it. Jesus said, at least instead of hiding your talent, burying it, why didn't you put it into the bank? The process or the principle of putting your talent in a bank is serving someone else, is to put your gifts under someone else so he can multiply it. It's only when you do that that God is going to open up your own manifestation of your leadership. And we need what you have. But it will only come when you put yourself in a position to be able to grow. Because God is still preparing you for what he's preparing for you. I'm talking to someone who, after listening to these amazing people talking about leadership, talking about bringing solutions, you are wondering, oh my goodness, I haven't found it yet. Maybe because you're sitting there trying to find it instead of finding someone who is doing something amazing in your community, and go and do everything in your power to make success whatever they're doing. It's only when you're being faithful to what belongs to someone else, only that God will give you what belongs to you. Back to you, Veronique.
Oh my goodness. Did you hear what Ambassador Hubert just said? Preparation, manifestation, and then succession. Your leadership is built in you. You came on the earth with your leadership gift or with your leadership. You don't have to find it somewhere else. It's not hidden in the book. It's not in the school. It's not in your degree. It's not in your bank account. It's not even in your organization, but it's inside of you. So you need to find it. And the way to find it is to look into your community and see someone who is actually doing something, and then you submit or you go and serve under their leadership. And so that by doing that, you've been prepared that God is going to manifest you and cause you to shine. And so people will see who you are. Wow, wow, wow. This is so beautiful. I don't know about you, but I am so in awe of the whole discussion and the whole sharing. And I'm pretty sure all our audience today have been tremendously been blessed by this sharing today, the dynamics of leadership and the politics of Jesus. Now you understand that Jesus is not only the religious rabbi that the people think, but he's a real politician, real king who actually did a lot of policies so that all the nation of the earth shall be governed by. Wow, amazing, amazing. I don't know whether any one of our panelists want to add something before we wrap up. Is there any question that have come in the the chat box? If yes, then we will pop it up in the screen so that we can answer it. If there's no question, then let's see what the panelists are going to say before we wrap up. Let me see here. I'm getting something from my phone. Okay. Actually, it says there's no question on the church. Everything seems to be good. I see that one there. Okay, but I got a seamless little tiny question to my panelists because I could not just let you go like that without having a question. I have heard everything that you have said. And now, how can I become that great leader that you're talking about? If I only know about Jesus as a religious man, if I only know about Jesus as someone who can just people talk about in the church, I've never knew about Jesus as you just talked today. How can I do it? How can I become that great leader?
I will start. I'll share. I think if a person has heard this and realized, wow, I've never seen Jesus in this light before. I've only seen him as this religious man, and how do I even get started? Well, I always look at it like this. Anytime when you hear information, I need you to meditate on this. All right? I need you to meditate on it because I don't want you to say, because of what they said, I can become a great leader. No, it's not going to work until you see it for yourself. So I really challenge you, if you've only seen Jesus from a religious figure or through whatever your religion, whatever, or your denomination, whatever they portray Jesus as, I challenge you to really take the information that we've shared and meditate on it and allow the Spirit to bear this and bear witness with you with what we've said. The Word of God says, try every spirit to see if it's of God. So I would just challenge you to really meditate on what we've shared until you can see it for yourself. Because I think when you get a revelation of it, that's when it's really going to take a toll. You can leave and say, well, Dr. Banks says this, Ambassador Hubert, Ambassador Alex, Lady Veronica shared this about leadership. No, nothing will work until you see it for yourself. So I would really challenge you to really meditate and always, go back to Genesis, read Genesis 1 and 2. That's before religion ever came up on the earth. So Genesis 1 and 2 is the most purest 2 chapters in the Bible. It has no religious undertones because religion wasn't even in the earth at that time. So I would challenge you to go back and read Genesis 1 and 2 and just really look at how God set this up from the beginning. As Ambassador Hubert said, God never set it up where one leader and everybody else is followers. If that was the case, he would have created Adam and Eve and then 1,000 different followers for them. But he only created Adam and Eve. So I would just really challenge you to go back and just read Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 without a religious overtone and just read it and really understand the original design. And from there, that's when you can really start taking root and insight the things that we've given.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Benz from Noble Success Group. Thank you for that answer. You hear it well. Go back to Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Read it without a religious mindset. Just read it and grasp all the information that I've been sharing in this platform today. Meditate upon it and let it sink into you, and so that you could actually see the big picture of who you are and how you could become. Wow. Anyone else want to add before we close?
Yeah, if I could add to what Dr. Banks just said, absolutely. I mean, when he was speaking, the passage that came to my mind is from the Acts chapter 17:11. I love that when I saw that passage over 20 years ago. It says, now the Bereans Jews were more noble character than the Thessalonica, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. Basically, like he said, you know, you've heard the word today. We know we are holding true to what the Bible says by what we've shared. Now you take that, as I said, meditate on it. I want to take it a step further and say, then do your research, right? The meditation on what you have taken, but, you know, get into the research and into the question mode. Ask question. You can find us online, right? Ask question, send an email, locate us on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, and get clarification. If you live here today and you feel overwhelmed, it's good. But if you do nothing about the being feeling overwhelmed, then it's not good. So yes, meditate, but research and ask questions. And then the last thing I'll add to that is, I think it's what we closed off of. Herbert also mentioned it. Look for a mentor. Look for a mentor. Mentors are critical. Mentors are amazing. Just your father can be your mentor, your bishop can be your mentor. All those people tell me, oh, I have mentors, my pastor is my mentor, this is my mentor. That's great. But in the area of leadership, you want to really examine, look at, I'll give you an example. I mean, Dr. Miles Morrow, I met him almost a decade ago. I was at a point in my life that I know I needed to up my game. I knew that I had what it took to stand in front of presidents and heads of state and interact with them. But I was slightly confused on, you know, how do you take God's words into the government? And my spirit led me to him. Nobody introduced me to Dr. Miles Morrow. My spirit led me to him. And I ordered 21 of his books. They arrived with UPS same day. And I started to read all of them and watch all the video. When I say all of them, you try watching 10%, then you see what I'm talking about. Spend literally over 1,000 hours doing that. And before I even got to that extent, I knew right away I wanted him to be my mentor. I got on the plane and went to the Bahamas for that purpose and that purpose only. So that's how far you need to go to find your mentor. And by the way, that is where I met my dear friend and brother here, Hubert. I'm glad to have been on the same platform here with you. And certainly, I'm glad to have met you, Dr. Banks. And again, Veronique, thank you for what you're doing. I believe we also met through Dr. Miles Morrow. So that's what I'll say. Don't do this alone. You can't do leadership alone. Let that be your point number 755. You can't do leadership alone. Impossible to do it alone. You need people. You need a mentor. You need research. You need to meditate. And you need to do all the things that, at least as much as you can, that we've said. Thanks again for having me on the platform.
You're welcome very much, Ambassador Ihama from School of Greatness, Canada. Wow. As you heard yourself, he added another one by adding chapter 17:11. Be like a Berean people. Make your own research after you have listened and watched and rewatch this teaching or this discussion today. Make your own research. See if what we share today is really true. And then you could find them online. You could find them on Facebook. You could find them on YouTube. You could find them in LinkedIn, on Twitter. Their account is posted right under their name, Alex Ihama, School of Greatness, and Dr. David Benz, Noble Social Group, Ambassador Hubert Sujara from Radanek, you have them all. So he says one thing also, then you should have a mentor. Because everything without a mentor is nothing. You could not be a leader without somebody mentor you. All have been born leader, but we always have somebody to look to before we get to that greatness. And he shared about how he met with Dr. Monroe. That's how actually we got to know each other, all of us, through Dr. Monroe, because we're searching and looking for somebody who can actually cause the bears in us to roar like a lion. So, Hubert, did you have anything to add before?
Yeah, I would just, because for you to become a leader, everything mainly was said. But I would just talk to someone who's still struggling with what you just said. What? Jesus was a leader? Jesus was a politician? You're struggling with that. I would just suggest you to sit down and be honest with yourself. Do you want to be great? Is your dream to leave the earth or to impact the earth? Be honest with yourself. Because Jesus said, if you want to be great, and I do believe that each and every one was born with that greatness built inside. How do you become a leader? Be honest with yourself. Listen to that still voice inside of your mind that is telling you you can do it. And someone said, if you believe you can do it, you are right. If you believe you can't, you are also right. Be honest with yourself. Do you want to just pay bills and die? Is your desire to do something for humanity? Listen to yourself. Be honest with yourself and tell yourself, as the Bible says, everything is possible to those who believe. Believe what God is putting on your mind. Stop doubting and saying it has never been done. Exactly. That's why you're born. You are born different because there is something only you can do. In a way, you can do it. I challenge you to sit down and believe your thought. Maybe you have been going around believing everyone else but you. Believe what God is telling you. Oh, by the way, if it's not frightening you, it's not from God. God will never tell you anything you can do without Him. If what you think you want to do, you can do it by yourself, it's too small for you. But I'm talking to someone who's struggling with these ideas of God or Jesus being a leader, wants you to be a leader. Just listen to yourself and be honest with yourself. Forget what the belief of your communities. Just sit down and listen to your mind. Do you want to be great? Is your dream to do something for humanity? If that's the case, then believe whatever your thoughts are. Make sure that whatever you want to do, you cannot do it without God. When you do that, I will definitely see you at the top.
Awesome, awesome, awesome adding, Ambassador Hubert. Believe your thought and make sure if it doesn't frighten you, it's not from God. Don't believe what the community or whatever say, but sit down, watch and rewatch and listen to all the sharing today and believe your thought. You want to be great. That is a good idea and it's very good from God. You need to believe your thought and making sure that what you want to do, you have to have God in it. Otherwise, we won't see you at the top. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful for all of you today. We are tremendously blessed to have you and to call you friends, to call you ambassador, to call you brother, to call you all the names that we could name and call you. Thank you very much unto all our panelists today. Can you bring us all, please, back all four on the panel? Thank you very much. Thank you for the privilege of your time. On behalf of Mamlakak Brokers Network, we don't know really how to say really thank you. But, you know, we are very privileged and grateful to our Creator for causing us to do all these things together, changing the world and bringing back his government on the earth, and cause everyone to know that they are leader in their area of gifting. Wow. And to all our audience today, you hear it well. And for all the three panelists, this great leader, Alex Ihema from the School of Greatness, all the way from Canada, you could research him out in Google, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Periscope, Twitter, Getter, Instagram. You will find him. You could also research Dr. David Benz in all Facebook as Noble Group Success, Strategic Group Success, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Getter, all. Even in Rumble, they are already there. You could also find Ambassador Hubert in radarnet.com. I think that is a platform designed for all the kingdom-minded people to be linked into, if I may not mistaken it correct, to be linked into. So everything that touched the kingdom of God, the government of God, you could find it at radarnet.com. You will find all of them in Instagram, in Twitter, in Periscope, in Getter, in Rumble, in YouTube. All these people are available to you. And those are resources. People are resources. People are the better currency God placed on earth than money, than gold, than silver. Get in touch with them. You want to be great? Get in touch with them. Maybe you are lacking just something to cause you to be in your next step of greatness. We recommend them to you. They have proved themselves to be worthy and to be recommended. We will not recommend people to you who are not worthy or who do not have the character of the king. So therefore, they are people we trust and we recommend them to you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Alex Ihema from Canada. Thank you very much, Ambassador Hubert Sojera from Rwanda. Thank you very much, Ambassador David Benz, Dr. David Benz, all the way from the USA. I am in the USA. So USA is in the house. Thank you for the privilege of your time and for the great deposit that you actually deposited today in the life of our audience. And I know that their life is going to get better and better. They will no more be the same. For the people who have watched this and who are going to come to watch, you could take note, you could circulate it. As we all often say at MBN, be the media evangelist. Andrew was one of the students of Jesus. He was the media evangelist. He was the one who went around. That was his purpose. He went around. He carried all. He said, come, come, come. I saw somebody. So be the media evangelist. Share this broadcast with everyone around you so that your reward in heaven will be great. Knowledge without revelation is nothing. Get the revelation and get the key of your greatness. Thank you very much for the privilege of your time. And thank you, our tech crew, for causing this broadcast to be live unto all, and for the effort that we're trying to strive to the excellence that God has caused us to be. We are all leaders, and we want to see you all at the top where the eagles are. When you see an eagle, another bird in the high fly, it must only be an eagle. And so we want to see you at the top where the eagle are. And until I see you again another time, because this is going to be done again based upon the opportunity and the availability of our guests. And we will give you the time and we will give you the date. Thank you. Thank you. It's my privilege. Your host today, Ambassador Veronica Lawson, on behalf of Mamlakak Broadcast Network, we say thank you very much and we see you the next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.